Right, so there's nothing worse than hitting a couple of great shots down a hole, or maybe just a decent one on a par 3, and you're just off the edge of the green with a pretty straightforward shot, but you do need to carry the ball over a bit of longer grass, so it takes the option of kind of the little bump and run with the 7-iron out of play. You need to use a wedge, so I've got my 56 degree, and unfortunately what I see a lot of golfers do is they'll set up and they understand about getting that weight forward, but we see a lot of shaft lean, and then when they play the shot, literally they can fat it, almost get the ball, hardly go in at all. But then the worst one on the next one is they'll stand up there, worry about that fat one, and they'll thin it straight across the green. So having hit a couple of good shots, it's then taking you 4 or 5 goes from the edge of the green to get it in the hole. And it's a killer for score. So if you're able to get there in the correct number of shots, we need a nice simple technique and understand how we're going to use the club correctly to get a solid strike on the ball. And once you start striking the ball well, then you can make some good choices. Right, so the first thing you need to understand is how we're going to get to use the club correctly, and that we can use the bounce of the club. So we're looking at the back edge of the sole rather than using that leading edge. Danger is a lot of us get told that we need to get lots and lots of shaft lean there. The problem is lots of shaft lean means we get rid of the bounce. Now when we use the leading edge of the club and it goes into the ground, that's where it digs, we make a big divot. But if we can have a technique that's going to use more of the bounce of the club, that's going to stop the club going into the ground, and almost, even if we were to hit behind, get the club gliding along the floor. So the first thing we need to do is potentially, instead of playing square, just open the club face a little bit, and that's going to add that little bit extra bounce to the club. Now, we're going to get the ball fairly central. If you were to then open that club face a little bit, we're then going to have to just adjust our stance very slightly left, and we don't want too much shaft lean. So we're going to get our sternum very slightly ahead of the golf ball and keep the pressure on that left foot. We can then also just make the club a little bit more upright, and it almost feels a little bit more like a putting stroke. So you can set up, we've got a little bit more bounce there with the club, make that putting stroke, and straight away, fantastic contact. And once you start striking the ball well, if you are somebody that struggles with chipping, it will be a game changer. So if you can stand there and feel, even off not fantastic lies like we've got here, that you can make those little adjustments at address and then make the swing. And even if your distance control's not quite there to begin with good contact, you can start learning how a better choice of shot is going to get the ball closer to the hole, or maybe even in the hole. So again, ball central, we're going to open that stance slightly open the club face, sternum forward, and then make that putting stroke. So like I spoke about, once you've got the technique good, then we can start making a better decision. Potentially this will influence club choice, but on how we're going to play the shot. So if we look at the shot I've got here, we're chipping to the far flag, probably saying if we want the ball to go in the hole, we're probably going to need to land the ball round about this area. So then all I've got to do is, once I'm at the golf ball, I have a look at my landing point, make a couple of practice swings with a swing that's going to be big enough to land the ball at that point, change the setup, make my swing, landed a little bit right of where I wanted, but we can see there that one's just finished a little right, but perfectly pin high. So again, try and develop a routine for this as well. Don't just stand there hitting chip after chip. So you go through, you get yourself set, look at that landing point, 2 practice swings. We can see how the club's just grazing the turf really, really nicely there. And then you can set up. And again, landing distance was good, but definitely just a little bit right. So you've got to learn from that. And we've got to say that because I'm opening the club face just a little bit there, I'm then not aligning my body quite far enough left. So I'm just going to set up exactly the same way and then just aim a bit further left, go through my routine again, make a couple of good swings, set that pressure on that front foot. That one's then landed much better and just bounced horrendously. But like I said, the key is make sure we start using the bounce of the club. Make sure the setup's good. And if the technique's good, you're going to make sure you strike the ball correctly. Then, once the striking's good, we need to start thinking about where we want the ball to finish, and most importantly, with the club in hand, where we want the ball to land. Run through those little steps though, and absolutely that will take your chipping to the next level. And amazingly, you'll look like a better putter because you won't need to use your putter as many times when you're chipping in or closer to the hole.